Howdy guys, Cub here. Welcome back to Snapshot 18W15A. And today guys, we're going to be testing out a lot of things about the snapshot regarding the speed of blue ice, regarding the conduits, and if some of the conduit effects stack with other effects already in the game. And yeah, I just wanted to also show that now that we have the water that allows light through, allows light to persist further through the water, the coral reefs actually with all the sea pickles definitely stand out at night for sure, and looks really cool. So just wanted to point that out. Anyway, let's go ahead and we're gonna make a couple test things, and let's go ahead and get testing. Alright guys, so the first test is going to be a speed test of boats on blue ice compared to packed ice. And so we already know that items thrown onto blue ice go much further than they do thrown onto packed ice. As you can see right here, blue ice clearly sends the items much further. And we're actually going to test if that is the case with some boats as well. So let's go ahead and put down a boat on the blue ice here. And we're just going to hold forward. This track is 400 meters long, so we're going to see how long it takes us to get from one side to the other. In 3, 2, 1, go. So there we go. We're just going to hold down forward constantly this whole time. I might bounce back and forth a little bit, but I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. And there we go. So yeah, you go pretty quick down a 400 block long track with the blue ice. Now let's try it out with the packed ice. We'll just fly all the way back here to the start to make sure we're going in the same direction, just so the initial conditions are the same for each test. And so on the screen now you should see how long that took me in seconds to travel 400 meters, and also an average speed over those 400 meters. It does take a little bit of time to get going though, so yeah, that might be a little bit different than the maximum speed. But let's go ahead and we'll press forward here, see how long this one takes. 3, 2, 1. Alright. And yeah, I can already tell this one's going significantly slower. We'll see how far we fly off the end here as well, because that's way short as well. So there you go. So I think this test definitively showed blue ice is significantly faster than packed ice, and I believe Mango showed in a video yesterday that blue ice actually is frictionless. So if you continue to make this track longer, the difference in speed between the blue ice and the packed ice increases even more, and that's because you can continually accelerate on the blue ice. There's no sort of upper limit to what your boat, the maximum speed your boat tops out at. So that's kind of insane. But now I want to test something else. We know that boats are faster on blue ice. What about items? Let's test some item speeds now in a water stream. So guys, I've set up a quick and dirty test here to test the speed that items travel at down ice streams, water streams on top of ice, I should say. So I set up 2 water streams. The one on the right has blue ice under it, and the one on the left has some packed ice. So basically we're going to see how quickly an item can make it from these dispensers here. You can see they all have a enchanted golden apple in it, all the way down to the end where it's going to light up a lamp. So the right side here is the blue ice, left side is the packed ice. Let's go ahead and hit the button, and we'll see which one goes faster. Looks like the blue ice is pulling ahead a little bit. A little bit more, a little bit more. Yep, blue ice is definitely way ahead now. And there you have it. Yep, blue ice is faster for item transportation, confirmed. So this next test is going to involve players on ice, and we're going to see if we can actually sprint and jump across blue ice faster than packed ice. So let's go ahead and do this test right now. I'm just going to get on in here and do the test. So there you have it, blue ice clearly a winner here, and essentially everything is faster on blue ice compared to packed ice. So a few other questions you guys had on this blue ice. One of the most common questions was, does it have a unique sound when placed under a note block like the packed ice does? So packed ice gives a chime sound when a note block is placed on top of it. Regular ice, though, does not, has a piano sound. And blue ice also gives a piano sound, so there's no unique sound to blue ice, at least not yet. Another interesting fact about the blue ice is that it actually will transmit a redstone signal, so it's considered like a solid block, so I can place a torch on top of it, or any sort of redstone component I want on top, and everything is fine and dandy there. Another couple of things that I learned recently about blue ice from Ray's video. Let me just go ahead and go into survival game mode. Blue ice is actually really hard to mine and takes a long time to mine, so if I go ahead and start mining this with an efficiency 5 silk touch pickaxe, look at how long it takes to mine. It takes a couple seconds to mine, so that is something that is somewhat interesting, but I guess it makes sense because it is 9 packed ice blocks in one, essentially, if you go by the recipe. Next thing we want to do is we want to go to creative game mode once again, and the blast resistance of blue ice is different from the packed ice. So if I go ahead and explode this TNT on the packed ice, you'll see it does quite a bit of damage, took out a lot of the top layers. But if I do the same thing over here with the blue ice, you'll see it does significantly less damage. So yeah, the blue ice has a greater blast resistance than the packed ice, which makes sense, right? Because each one of these is 9 of these packed ice. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so our next test is going to involve the Conduit Block. So this is the Conduit Block, in case you guys haven't seen it yet. And this thing actually turns on into a different, like, conduit entity type thing. If we go ahead and put down a block here, yeah, it turns into this thing right here. And this thing gives you Conduit Power, which gives you a lot of different properties. You can see easily underwater with the conduit. You can also breathe underwater, and it also supposedly gives you haste, which is what I want to test right now. So we're actually going to turn that off for now and come out here and take a look at the tests we're going to do. So we want to first of all test if there's a difference in haste between the minimum level conduit, which is this one right here, and the maximum level conduit, which is this one right here. If I go ahead and just place that inside of that. So this is the maximum level conduit. So we're going to test that out. And we also want to test if the conduit haste stacks with the beacon haste. Because in the beacon, you can get haste 1 and haste 2 from the beacon itself. So we're going to test all that right here. So the first test we're going to do is going to be no beacon and no conduit. Just straight up, how long does it take us to mine 100 endstone? That's what we're gonna test. Second test will be the conduit at minimum power, so conduit with 16 prismarine blocks around it. Third test will be conduit at maximum power, which is going to be the whole 42 blocks around it, like this right here. So in this configuration. Next test will be the beacon alone, so the haste 1 and the haste 2 beacon. We're going to test both of those and how long that takes. And then we'll try both combined, so the haste 1 beacon and the conduit power, and the haste 2 and the conduit power. So obviously this is going to take a little bit of time, and so I'm going to go ahead and just use a unenchanted diamond pick to mine this stuff out. And I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I will let you guys know of the results once I am done. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to game mode survival, and we are going to go ahead and start mining right now. So guys, the first test is now done. The no beacon and no conduit, just straight up mining with this unenchanted diamond pick. It took me 89.7 seconds from when I first started mining this first one to when I destroyed the last block. And now it's time to do the conduit power ones. You might be wondering how I'm going to do the conduit power ones outside of water, because you actually have to be in the water to get the conduit power. So you can see the conduit is active right now. And yeah, you have to be in the water, otherwise the effect won't work. You'll see here after a brief number of seconds it actually goes away. And the key is that we have to change the weather. So if we do /weather rain, you'll see that when it rains you can actually get the conduit effect outside of water. So that is what we're going to be using to test this thing. So yeah, we now have the conduit power and it should be refreshing. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the rest of these tests. I just wanted to make that small note there. So let's go ahead and do it, and I'll be back with the results. Alright guys, so all the results are in, and I also conducted a few additional tests underwater just to make sure of some things which I suspected. So let's go ahead and get into the results. So first of all, the default test, as you guys saw before, Took us 89.7 seconds, so about a minute and a half, to mine 100 end stone. So that was our default time. With the conduit power at minimum, so that's 16 blocks surrounding the conduit block, it took us 80 seconds to mine those 100 blocks. So you save about 10 seconds per 100 blocks with the conduit power. Then the conduit power at maximum was also 80 seconds, so there's no difference between the conduit at minimum and maximum power. And the conduits are the same as a Haste 1 beacon. This also took 79.9 seconds. But yeah, it's a little bit slower than the Haste 2 beacon. Now for the combined beacon and conduit. This took 80.1 seconds with the Haste 1, which is the same as the regular Haste and the regular conduit. So that does not stack. The conduit Haste and the beacon Haste does not stack. And then we found the same thing with the Haste 2. So that took 74.7, and the regular Haste 2 was 74.8. So we can conclude from this that Haste does not stack from the beacon and the conduit. So it does not stack. I also tried it underwater, and underwater we found the same result basically underwater. So yeah, it takes a lot longer. It takes like 265 to 268 seconds to mine 100 blocks underwater, but yeah, you find the same thing. So yeah, it is not stackable. Alright guys, next thing I did is I tested the range of the conduit power effect that gives you the haste and the underwater breathing, as well as the ability to see underwater much better than normal. And yeah, I actually came upon some surprising results. So first of all, the range. So the minimum structure size to turn the conduit quote-unquote on and to actually get the conduit power effect at all is 16 blocks. And at that size, you have 32 blocks of range. So that's this first pillar right here. So you can get the conduit power up to this level here as long as you're in water or it's raining. Next level up is at 21 blocks. 21 blocks gets you out to 48 blocks of range. Then every 7 blocks from then on, you increase in range by 16 blocks. So at 28 blocks, you have 64 blocks of range. At 35 blocks, you have 80 blocks of range. And then finally, the maximum range with the full structure, 42 blocks of structure, you have 96 blocks of range. The next interesting thing about the range of the conduit is that the range of the conduit from the conduit structure is actually spherical. So here I have a minimum level conduit structure right here. That's sort of the sphere right there, this little circle you see right here. And then the maximum extent is this big one right here. So this is the maximum extent that you can still get the conduit power effect from the conduit structure. And this is different from the beacon, which actually has a cylindrical area of effect, because if you guys are familiar, the beacon effect lasts from wherever the beacon is all the way up to world height, and actually beyond world height a little bit in some instances. And that is not the case for the conduit structure. The conduit structure can only go a certain amount above and beyond, or above and below the structure itself. I can demonstrate that here if I go ahead and do /weather rain. And you'll see here we have the minimum size conduit structure, so 16 blocks right there, so just so it barely turns on. And you'll see, since I'm still within this structure right here, since I'm within this this sphere right here that makes up the area of effect of the conduit structure at the minimum distance, you'll see I'm getting conduit power. But if I go above this now, so say I go up here, I'm now above the sphere, and you'll see my conduit power has now run out. So yeah, that is something to consider. It's not like the beacon where the effect goes all the way up to world height. There's actually a point above it and below it where the effect will cut off completely. So you see here, yeah, no more conduit power. Now if I come back down into the sphere, I get the conduit power back. So yeah, just something interesting, a little bit different than the beacon, so just be aware of that. Another interesting thing about the conduit block that I want to share real quick with you guys is that you don't necessarily need water source blocks within the conduit structure itself for the conduit to be active. So you can see here, I have a maximum level conduit structure, and the conduit inside is active. If I go ahead and get in here, yeah, you'll see conduit power. We are getting conduit power as long as we are within the water. And also I can demonstrate here if I just drop in, like, let's say a zombie. The zombie gets damaged by the conduit block itself since it's a maximum level conduit block. And so you might be wondering what is going on here. These are actually waterlogged Prismarine brick stairs. So if I go ahead and hit F3 here, you can see waterlogged tag is true. You can actually see a little bit of water here on the bottom, although it's a weird color. And so if I break in here, you can see a little bit better what is going on. So in here we got some waterlogged stairs and some waterlogged slabs here. And yeah, the conduit block is still active. So you can have waterlogged blocks that make up your... Let me just get this back, put this back here. It can make up your conduit structure. So yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that you didn't have to use water blocks. You can use waterlogged blocks, and also flowing water works too. So not all of them have to be source blocks in the middle of the conduit structure. So a couple other things about the snapshot. You can actually feed dolphins fish. However, they don't necessarily breed. So if I get down here with some cod and right click on this dolphin, you'll see it does actually eat the cod. Same thing if you try and feed it cooked cod or cooked salmon or raw salmon. Clownfish does the same thing. And you can also feed them pufferfish too. And they actually don't get sick. So presumably this might be used as a breeding mechanic in the future, but right now you can't actually use it to breed them up. They just consume the fish and you don't get anything out of it. Another interesting behavior, which I actually did not observe before, is the behavior of dolphins and items. So you guys probably saw from the previous snapshot video that dolphins can sort of poke at items, but they can also actually pick it up with their mouths, like that. So they can actually pick it up and carry it around and like swim with it for a little bit. And this guy actually dumped off the item on the ledge there. But yeah, they can actually pick up items with their mouths and carry it around. Look at that. That's craziness. So maybe this is going to be a additional mechanic in the future. But yeah, definitely an interesting thing to see. So guys, I've had a couple of people ask me whether or not it's possible to make a mob grinder using the conduit block, and the answer is yes, of course. Here is a very, very basic mob grinder right here with the conduit block. So you can see the zombies from the zombie spawner fall in, and then the conduit block picks one, and it starts to slay. So it takes about 5 hits for the conduit block to actually slay the mob. And you should see that once this dude dies, yeah, it picks up his rotten flesh or whatever other drop the mob you have farming drops. Now, this is great. It works, yeah, very slowly. And you'll see, yeah, there's now many more zombies that are now in there. And the problem is that only one conduit block, using only one of these, results in, over time, mobs building up. So, what does that mean? It means we gotta step it up a notch. Okay guys, so let me go ahead and show you guys this thing now. This thing is a conduit superstructure, and effectively what that means is a lot of conduits in a small area with the intentional purpose of using it to slay mobs. So this thing can slay about 4,800 mobs per hour. Let me just show you real quick here. So this is about 20 or so zombies in here, and you'll see, yeah, pretty much immediately these mobs will start to die. So there goes one. And you'll see a whole bunch of them in just a second go down. So there we go. There goes a group. And then a few more. And then a few more. The next one. A few more. And then finally the stragglers get taken out. So it takes about 15 seconds to kill 20 or so mobs here. Which means, yeah, about, like I said, 4,800 mobs per hour. This might be relevant if it wasn't for entity cramming and magma blocks. But effectively what we've done here is just basically put 30 conduits in close proximity so that they all can basically affect the water block there. And also these conduits share walls. So like these two conduits that I showed here and here, they share this wall right here, this whole column right here. And this is nowhere near the maximum efficiency of these conduit megastructures. So for instance, I mean, we could even add another one up here, like a whole nother row right here. Then we'd make another one right here, like that. And then we can make another one down here. So yeah, I mean, you can easily imagine making, even with this design, which, like I said, is not the most efficient, you can make this easily 15,000 per hour, probably, because the size and the range of the conduit structure damage, the damage area of effect, is absolutely huge. It's actually this entire rectangle here, this entire iron rectangle. So, yeah, it's absolutely massive, and if you, for instance, did the maximum efficiency design, which is actually reusing these waterlogged stairs here, so you could actually reuse these and then put the conduit where the magma block is, right there. So you could actually utilize the space in between as well. And then this would come up like this, and then it would come out like this, and then you just keep on doing that pattern, keep on reusing the waterlogged stairs like that. So you could probably end up eventually with a design that could process probably 50,000 per hour, is my guess, would be the maximum. But yeah, like I said, still not really that relevant because of entity cramming and magma blocks, but if those weren't a thing, this might actually be relevant in survival. Still though, I think it might be possible to make a highly efficient farm with these conduits in here. So the way I'm imagining this farm is as follows. So you obviously want to build it in the lower sub-chunks because that's where mob spawns are most frequent. And so you need to build this thing down near bedrock. But if you could build it down near bedrock, you would have access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 7 spawning pads, which would probably be, you'd probably want to locate it on like the edge of one of the chunks. And each of these spawning pads would, fill out a little bit of space on the side here. So say like, something like this, just off the top of my head. So it'd be something like that, except it'd probably be out even further than that, like this or so. So something like this, roughly. You'd maybe have a dispenser facing upward right here on this block, which would then sweep mobs out and into a centralized water stream right where I'm at right now. The mobs would then start to slowly rise through the water stream while also taking damage from the entire thing right here, from the conduit structure right here, and also presumably more conduit structures either put in the center or on the side. And you could even interlace them like I did over there. And then as the mobs are in the water moving upward, they die in the water, meaning their items then float to the surface, and you can take them away on a water stream on top, which also serves as the way to make the top spawn proof. So that is a concept I think has potential, so maybe somebody can take that concept and run with it and make a very efficient farm with it. But either way, thought it was really cool just to see what you could do with this, and yeah, it's kind of interesting to think about the new possibilities that this brings to the game. One final thing I want to mention here, guys, there is a bug/feature that was introduced in the most recent snapshot that I'm not really sure if it's a bug or a feature, but I thought it was worth mentioning here. Basically, the bug and/or feature is that mobs can now spawn on ice. That's regular mobs. If I go ahead and set the difficulty to hard, you'll see, yeah, pretty much instantly, boom, mob spawns everywhere. Skeletons, creepers, zombies, etc. And so, like I said, it's unclear if this is intentional or not, especially given that, there's been a lot of changes recently to, the spawning algorithm and things like that. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that in case any of you guys are in the snapshots and wondering why suddenly there's mobs in your ice fortress or something like that. So yeah, kind of interesting, but we'll see if it's a bug or not. May or may not be. So ladies and gentlemen, with that, I'm going to say that's it for me from Snapshot 18W15A. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and leaving a like on the video if you enjoyed. As always, thanks so much for watching. This has been Cub. Goodbye.